Hi everyone, Zach here, and welcome to lesson 98 of the RTS tutorial series. In this video, we'll continue working on our enemy AI so that the enemy engineer unit repairs and constructs buildings. This series and this video have been brought to you by my Patreon sponsors like Nemian Games. That said, fire up your project and let's get started. Because of the error of where things are spawning in right now, I want to make one small change to the unit master. And it's something, or not unit master, to the building master. We're going to make a lot of changes to the unit master. To the building master, I just want to go back to the units for some reason. I just want to set it so that the entry point is visible in game, just so that we can see where the building is, because depending on where it spawns in, our enemy engineer is going to run between these two and just vanish, and it's going to make no sense, because this thing has a massive spawn area. If we just select the entry point here real quick, and can I set it to visible from here? Yes, I can, because it has that massive entry point. Now, we could change that, and I just don't want to tackle that right now. So what we need to do, remember, we have our building spawning in, so it spawned one in. It's not making the things visible in game. So we'll just go back to our building master here and make sure that entry point actually is visible. Hit play. There they are. Okay, so you can see them spawning in, and we're going to have our engineer from our enemy go into the correct building. And to show you that I've done one of the updates I said I would do, I actually put the buttons back in, and the progress bars are now working. All right, so to achieve this, what we need to do is we need to make some relatively simple changes, but we have to go through a lot of little simple changes. So we're gonna start in the unit master. And we did this last time to get rid of the stuff for the HUD showing up for our enemies. We're going to make some other little changes just to make sure the unit is seen as automated from the get-go. So if we go to our begin play, we're just going to set it at the very end here. And in fact, we're going to make another change, one that I haven't actually prepped. So hopefully this works. It shouldn't really matter. We're going to create a branch here that is controlled by AI. We'll do branch. If it is controlled by our AI, then we will set to automated. So if we look over here, we have set automated, and I don't remember what those were in earlier, and we're going to mark this as true when I say what those were in, what categories I had them in previously. And we're just going to set that as true, move this up here. If it is false, in other words, it's owned by the player, well, then we will do everything off the false. So we'll plug the false into the HUD, because we don't want the HUD to show up for our enemy units for the player. We then also need to do something a bit weird in the reference casts. We need to come in here, and I'm going to reverse some things. So I'm going to first unplug our cast to player controller. Actually, no, we're going to leave that plugged in. I've changed my mind. I'm going to break this. I was going to break it anyway. And we're going to just break that actually from there as well. We're going to move this out of the way for a moment, because we don't want to create a HUD that we're not going to use. So what we'll do instead is, again, we'll do another branch, again, with a check, is controlled by AI. All right, if it is not controlled by the AI, if it's the player, then we will create our HUD. Plug that into the false, move that a bit over that way so we have a little bit more room to play with, and plug that into the cast to the AI controller for the unit. Now, this is where it can be a bit weird. There are a few ways to tackle this, and we don't technically need to cast, and we're going to try without casting just to see, does this work correctly? We're going to get all actors of class. And if we only have one AI team, this is a bit of an overkill approach, but this is designed so if you have multiple AIs, you're able to use this. And what we're going to do is we're going to get the enemy pawn, and we're going to do a for each with break. because we don't need everything if we find the right thing right away. And this is where it gets a bit hairy looking, unfortunately. We are going to come off the completed, if I can get this, into our cast there. And I want to put a reroute in. All right, there we go. And I just want to line all of that up. Well, that did not line up the way I intended for it to, but okay, that works for me for now at least, because I can do that. All right, so we're going to go from our get all actors. We're going to do a for each with break, and we're going to check the array element, and we want to see, is this array element, or sorry, we want to get from this array element its team. We want to see, does this team, actually, we know what we're going to do. Sorry, just so I have more room, we're going to move this down here so it lines up on that player part. We want to see, does this team, and I'm just going to move this over this way again so it lines up a bit nicer. So does the AI's team match the unit's team that we passed in at construction? If they do match, then we want to make a reference to this particular AI. That way we don't have the wrong AI in control of the unit. Or that way we don't have the wrong team getting unit information. So we'll do a branch. And we're just going to move this a little bit further down. Come off of here, and we're going to promote to variable, and this will be enemy pawn ref, and I'll take care of organizing this at some point. We're going to plug that into the true, and then we're going to come off this and go into the break. Again, because we don't need to keep looping through this if we found the correct team already. Fortunately, it only has one element in our version of the array right now, so it won't loop through too much, and it will break and come through here. So let's just make sure this is setting. Let's add a breakpoint there and hit play. Of course, I'm on the support unit, which doesn't really help me. So we'll just change that to the engineer unit and hit play. There we go. And, well, it's none, but if we step forward a frame and go back through there, we can see that it's seen our enemy pawn, and we are good to go. And if we step through another frame, I should have stepped over this, so we're going to step out. We come into our cast to the master controller AI for the units. There we go. We know this is working, so I can remove that breakpoint, and I can stop what we're doing now. Let's go ahead and save this, close our standard macro, because we don't need it open anymore. All right, so now we've set is automated. We have made sure we have a reference to our enemy pawn, because we're going to need to get information from our enemy pawn. If you remember, in our enemy pawn, we have our list of constructed and unconstructed buildings. Well, our engineer needs to know where to go, and it wants to target the correct units, or correct buildings. And I'm going to show you why in just a moment. I'm going to make it a little bit buggy to show you the logic behind this. We don't need the master building open anymore. So, what we'll do to demonstrate the issue is we will go to our... I swear I had it open a moment ago. I did. I closed it. We're going to go to our AI for our unit. We're going to go to our engineer unit, and we're going to just pop open our service here. And we will deal with that one in a little bit. So what we're going to do here is we're going to change some things up. So it's going to work with the enemy AI and the player. Now it's going to be a bit buggy, and intentionally so, at the start. By the end of this video, we will have addressed that bug. I want to show you why we need that enemy pawn reference in our unit. So what we're going to do is we're going to first break this. And we're just going to grab everything here. We're going to move it out of the way for a moment. And we're going to grab our unit reference. And we want to get from this unit, is it controlled by the AI? If it is controlled by an AI team, we're going to do something slightly differently. So we're just going to take that, plug that into there, put a nice little reroute in, and move that reroute just up there. All right, so if we grab this stuff now, we can bring it back down. We'll set this on the false because that doesn't change. And in fact, we can grab everything. Well, we'll grab everything and then delete what we don't need. We'll copy or Control W it. And we're going to put that into the true. We're going to get rid of this part because it's always... Actually, we're going to make sure it's always automated. And we'll leave that as false. So in my prep file, I got rid of that, but I'm going to leave it in here. we'll set this to doing work. And actually, we have one more thing we need to do before we can test it and see the bugginess I was talking about. We're just going to set that. And the next thing we need to do is we need to go back to our services and get our unit status. And at the very end, not of our loyalty level, at the very end of our check statuses, we need to add one thing to this. We need to check again, is this unit controlled by the AI? And we'll get the unit reference. We'll do is controlled by AI. And if I've covered everything after this, we can do our first little buggy test to see why that reference was necessary. We haven't used it yet, so it's necessary, but we just haven't used it, which is why it's going to be problematic. And we're going to grab this. Actually, we're going to grab this, set it there to is doing work or doing work, whatever you've named it. Get our Blackboard key. We're going to set our status, and we are going to... Ooh. Technically, we'll have to do something else here as well. We'll have to check, is the unit loyal? But we'll take care of all of that stuff, because I mentioned unit defection. We'll take care of that later on. We just want the basic parts to work for now. So set Blackboard value as enum. Pass that through. Plug that sucker into there. And just line those up, just so it reads a little bit better. There we go. It's still not perfect, but whatever. It works. Alright, so let's do our first little buggy test. There it goes. Our unit's moving off, and it's gone to a friendly building to do a repair. It's going to move on to the next one. Technically, it should have moved on to this one, but it never does. I haven't worked out quite why it does the friendly units first. Actually, no, I do know why. Because it doesn't have these in the player controller reference. The other reason why we needed to have our enemy unit reference. Now, if you're wondering why I have made this choice to include our player controller in here, well, if we skip this, we run into an error. If we put this on the false only, the unit health bar at the top of our enemy doesn't rotate toward the camera. So we need to have a reference to our player controller still. Alright, so now what we need to do is make sure that it's targeting the correct buildings. And this is where a lot of little changes have to take place. So it's all on our find targets part. And we have a lot of little steps to do, as I've mentioned. So we're going to start with our get targets. If we come into here, you notice what the list we're pulling from is from the, player controller here. Well, we're going to do something slightly differently. We're going to break this for a moment. And, well, actually, we're going to break all of this for a moment. What we're going to do is we're just going to grab our unit reference from here. We're going to do is controlled by AI. Do a branch. All right. And we can move this stuff up this way. All right. If it's not controlled by our AI, we'll go through here. And in fact, what we're going to do now is we're going to do a select, because we do need technically 2 branches for this to work. If this is false, we'll go into there. Plug that into there. That goes that way. All right, and if it is controlled by the enemy AI, what we'll do here, we need to plug that back into there, sorry. We'll come off of here and we will get our enemy pawn reference. All right, and we will get list of unconstructed buildings. This is going to be a bit messy, unfortunately. Let's move that this way for now. We'll clean up some of this as we can in a moment. All right. So we have kind of 2 branches, if you notice, coming through here. We have 1 branch for this bit and 1 branch for which array do we want to actually use for this loop. The other thing we need to do is update or set all buildings. Just so we update that list for this one. Plug that into there. Move that up this way. So now it has a list of damaged buildings if it's on the right, if it's coming from the right list. All right, and then we have get all ground vehicles. This one we're going to handle slightly differently. This one's a little bit easier to tackle. We are going to come off of here and we're going to get team. From our get team, we're going to get our unit reference there. We're going to get team of that unit. And we just want to know, is the team that our vehicle is related to the same as our unit reference? And the reason for this is, well, we use this get all actors a class. So all we have to do here is put an and in instead. Move this along a bit. Plug this into there. And plug that into there. All right, so let's walk through this. If we're controlled by the AI, then we will update the AI's buildings. We will check, again, which array we want. So if we're controlled by the AI, we will use this array. If we're not controlled by the AI, we'll update the players list and use the array from the player controller. Fairly simple stuff so far, right? Well, we're not done. As I said, we have a lot of little updates to do. Notice again, the unit's just, oh, well, it's found something to go to. What's it going to? Ah, it's constructing the right building. But it's not going to do repairs. So that's where we're getting all these little errors, the repair building part. So let's go back here. We have our get distances. All right, so get distances. Let's take a look in here. We have some changes we need to make. Well, let's see. List of damaged buildings. Well, we've just set that in here. So our list of damaged buildings, fairly simple to tackle. Now let's go down. Oh, sorry. Let's go down on our get distances. Our list of damaged vehicles, pretty much the same. But here is the interesting part. I'm surprised it actually worked. Of get list of unconstructed buildings, which means that there is something going on the player controller. But we still need to address this issue in general. So we're going to tackle this function. We're going to make a duplicate of it. And this will be get list of unconstructed enemy building ref. Or unconstructed enemy building ref. Not list. And we're going to delete these. Actually, we're going to delete all these nodes except for the input there. Just drag them down there. We're going to get our unit reference. From our unit reference, we are going to get the enemy pawn reference. And from our enemy pawn, we're going to get our list of unconstructed buildings. So list of unconstructed buildings. Sorry about that. I got slightly distracted by that dog just running in his sleep. It's kind of funny and cute. All right, so if we go back here and our get distances, we're going to just repeat what we did a moment ago. We're going to break this for now. We're going to get rid of that. We're just going to move this over here. We're going to grab this one, and we're going to grab our unit reference. So what we need to do is we need to get our is controlled by AI and select from these two which one we want to use. So if we do select, if this is true, if it is controlled by the AI, then we want the enemy building list. If it isn't, we just want that reference list. We then check the length of that list. And from here, we go into this array. Let's just make that a little bit neater. There we go. So now it should actually get the correct buildings. And we can recycle this entire setup. I'm just going to Control-C copy it because I know I'm going to need it in a moment. So if we go back to our event graph, so we need to take care of our set target construction here, or target construction. So if we come in here, we have this list of unconstructed buildings ref. Well, that isn't valid anymore. We have to do it this way using our new selector. There we go. All right. We can save that. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's just get those errors back up on screen and see if we can resolve what's going on. So we let it run to the building, let it construct the wrong building, or right building, and not let it do the repairs. Where is that unit vanished to? There it is. All right, we see that it's having a little bit of an issue, and we get an error, a read none. So our reference is empty on our target building. All right, so, well, I'm just gonna move this to a different window so I have that when I need it back up here. Well, in the AI, we set our target building. Yeah, it's saying, let me just put this back up here. It's saying, yes, it's having the error in our repair building function where its target building isn't being set. This is a read none. There's nothing in here. So we need to make sure we're setting this correctly in our find target. Or sorry, in our engineer find target. So I'm just gonna move this back to the other window for a moment. In here, target building, let's pop this open. Well, we have the original code I did ages ago. Here's our list. So let's just add a breakpoint there for a second and see what's happening. So with that breakpoint there, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna hit play for a moment. We've come into here now, and it's getting the training post as a damaged building, which is problematic. So let's go back to the training post. Let's actually add that breakpoint back in. Actually, I'm gonna run this one more time. What I wanna see is do we trigger before or after we have repaired the building? So I'm just going to remove that breakpoint for a moment. And in my other window, sorry, I can't do this in one window. I'm just going to hit resume. And it's moving to the training post. It hasn't built it yet. It is now constructing it. Now I'm going to add this breakpoint back in. So it looks like what I did was I made a mistake somewhere in our get targets. Yeah, see, a list of unconstructed buildings. Okay, so I just made a small mistake. That's why it was doing things I wasn't expecting. Should be a list of constructed buildings here. All right, there we go. And now if we hit play, it should do the repair first. And now it should do that one. And it should go back in to repair it. And there we go. And no errors. So I actually knocked out what I was going to do in the next video, which was all of this stuff. I realized, I guess I kind of had to do it to make this all work. So now our enemy engineer will target the correct buildings for repair and construction. So if we just play that one more time, let's take a look at what the AI is saying. Ready for action, units on the move. So our enemy AI now has a functional engineer unit, which takes us through that first part we need to do for our enemy. The next thing we need to do, that's the wrong behavior tree, is we need to come into here and we need to actually take care of costing out the construction of our building. So we have taken care of a good chunk of just starting the basic parts of our enemy AI. This series has been brought to you by Patreon sponsors like Tristan Ludovic. That said, if you've enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button down below. And if you want to be here when we handle the costing of our enemy unit building these buildings, make sure to hit that subscribe and notify icon. And if you want to help the channel out further, consider becoming a supporter on Patreon. That said, I look forward to seeing you in the next tutorial, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.